Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, all that hype, all the marketing, Liz Cheney going on a media tour and Adam Schiff following her, and of course Adam Schiff doing what he always does. I mean, the guy's basically a promoter, a hype man. Oh, there's a whole lot of information and a whole lot of real evidence that we're going to present to you. It's going to be damning, it's going to be shocking. Ooh, spooky stuff. And there we go, we wrap up the first day of the January 6th hearing, and what an absolute nothing burger. What a fail it was. You know what it felt like? It felt like I was back in school listening to a bunch of dorks give their presentations. Liz Cheney obviously being the key speaker, and liberals across the Twitter platform are hailing Liz Cheney as an incredible, brave, virtuous, courageous hero. But what Liz Cheney really is a jealous, vindictive, Washington neocon puppet who's playing a role. I mean, you can see right through this stuff. This 1-6 commission should have ended a year ago. They found absolutely no real evidence. All the evidence that they continue to present, we'll get into some of it later, well, get this, isn't really evidence at all. And Liz Cheney is conflating two specific topics. She's claiming that Donald Trump is guilty because he refused to accept the results. But refusing to accept the results is one thing. Planning and orchestrating an insurrection is another. There is currently zero evidence of an organized from top to bottom, massive, widespread, expansive conspiracy to overthrow the US government. And there is even less evidence involving Donald Trump at the tippy top in the captain's chamber of said conspiracy. Day one of this hearing is another massive, complete waste of time, as Democrats do what Democrats do best. Play this game of political theater with Liz Cheney as the starring act, pushing Nancy Pelosi's talking points and Nancy Pelosi's narrative, because the goal is stop Donald Trump from being able to run in 2024 no matter what. Let me show you guys what happened here. Let's get into all of the non-evidence and all of the ridiculous garbage that came out of lawmakers' mouths. But before we get into any of it, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible, and with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so just when you thought this thing was going to be non-partisan as Nancy Pelosi has been advertising it, just as you thought they were gonna be honest and cover both sides, you instantly, the moment it starts, realize this is a political smear campaign. This is all political theater. Take a look how Democrat Benny Thompson, the January 6th Commission chairman, started the hearing.
And the Mississippi River. I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching. I'm reminded of that dark history as I hear voices today try and justify the actions of the insurrectionists on January 6, 2021. Over the next few weeks, hopefully you will get to know the other members.
Literally, the moment it starts, we're already, Republicans are the KKK. Could you imagine this wasn't just political theater and this was a serious trial? This was a court, and the grand jury is speaking like this? Does that sound impartial? Does that sound like people who are trying to get to the bottom and figure out all the facts? Or is that Benny Thompson, the man who refused to even attend Donald Trump's inauguration back in 2017, having a vendetta against Donald Trump and wanting to stop him from even existing within the political realm at all costs, to the point where he is willing to recommend criminal charges? I mean, these people are nutcases, and it's the one trend that we see across the January 6th committee. Every single individual not only doesn't like Donald Trump, they hate Donald Trump with a fiery passion. Even the two Republicans in Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Yet this clown, as we know as Nancy Pelosi, keeps telling us that this is an impartial, non-biased, non-partisan committee because two Republicans have been added to the panel. If this January 6th committee was to be treated seriously at all, it wouldn't have already set the outcome before it even started. But the outcome here has been clear since the start. Find Donald Trump guilty no matter what. Whether it's circumstantial evidence or weak links, just keep hammering the same point that in the end all information leads to Trump being guilty, regardless of how incoherent your points are. And again, we know this January 6th hearing is totally biased and only seeks to get one end because nobody's asking the important questions.
If you want to ask real questions about 1-6, why don't we ask them? Why don't we find out the reason why the Capitol Police Force, we just found out through a FOIA this week because of Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch, that the Capitol Police going into 1/6 was at 50% strength. How come that was allowed to happen? How come that was okay? We all knew it was going to be a tumultuous, emotional day. These are the questions they don't want to answer. You know why, Tucker? Because when the political violence benefits them, they just turn a blind eye toward it. When real Americans have outrage, they want to put him in jail.
Nobody's asking why Capitol security was at 50% and why, when then President Donald Trump requested for increased security at the Capitol, nobody acted. See, the Democrats were faced with a dilemma before the actual events. They knew that a massive protest was going down. They knew that there were security risks and security concerns, which isn't something that's specific to Trump supporters. It's something that's specific to mobs. When you have tens of thousands of people who clearly aren't happy and are clearly there to protest, all gathering in one specific small location, well, then the concept of mob mentality becomes a clear risk, regardless of who the people are. We already know that there's bad actors. We know that Antifa was involved as well. There's a video that's actually surfacing all over Twitter showing what appears to be some Antifa-like figures changing their black clothing to put on Trump t-shirts and Trump hats and sweaters. The day of January 6th, we know that there's people who were there to instigate. And the Democrats either were part of that instigation or knew that it was going to happen and decided that they weren't going to increase security at the Capitol. That's the question that must be asked if this is truly nonpartisan. Why were Capitol police officers opening gates and opening doors and letting people in? Nobody wants to ask that, of course. Why was a fence not erected around the Capitol? Of course, nobody asks that. Instead, we just continue to get a bunch of garbage talking points, mostly coming out of Liz Cheney's mouth. First off, Donald Trump is guilty because my Proud Boys, even though Donald Trump months before was on the record condemning the Proud Boys.
I have to say, I've said it many times, and let me be clear again, I condemn the KKK. I condemn all white supremacists. I condemn the Proud Boys.
And honestly, most of the talking points and most of what was said during this January 6th hearing, most of the evidence suggesting Donald Trump's guilt is somehow his connection to the Proud Boys. Here's Kyle Griffin, an executive producer at MSNBC, who's been tweeting all the highlights from the trial. I mean, there is no evidence here. Breaking. Cheney says Republican Scott Perry contacted the White House in the weeks after January 6th to seek a presidential pardon. She adds multiple other Republican congressmen also sought presidential pardons for their roles in attempting to overturn the 2020 election. That's not evidence. What that is defending yourself against clear political persecution from clowns like you. Chairman Thompson says Donald Trump was at the center of that conspiracy, and ultimately Donald Trump, the President of the United States, spurred a mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution to march down the Capitol and subvert American democracy. Again, not evidence. Not only did President Trump refuse to tell the mob to leave the Capitol, he placed no call to any element of the U.S. government to instruct that the Capitol be defended. He did not call his Secretary of Defense on January 6th. First of all, that is a flat-out lie.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this.
And secondly, not evidence. Take a look at this one. Chairman Thompson says, we have obtained substantial evidence showing that the president's December 19th tweet calling his followers to D.C. on January 6th energized individuals from the Proud Boys and other extremist groups. Donald Trump explicitly called for a peaceful rally at the Capitol. Evidence is the word that they use, that his tweet energized individuals from the Proud Boys and other extremist groups. Again, that's not evidence that Donald Trump was part of a grand conspiracy. And everything we see here is all circumstantial. It's not clear-cut evidence of anything. It's nothing we don't already know, that yes, Donald Trump was pissed. Yes, Donald Trump wasn't happy. Yes, Donald Trump did in fact call for a peaceful protest outside the Capitol. And yes, Donald Trump did call for increased security, which you guys refused to give him, or refused to approve, that being Nancy Pelosi and DC Mayor Muriel Bowser. And so what we have here is a continuation, an extension of the endless anti-Trump legal witch hunt, and no actual evidence of anything. The fact that taxpayer dollars are still paying for this stuff is a joke. What a complete waste of time and money. Not to mention, there's reports now that Nancy Pelosi's committee hired a former TV executive and, quote, master storyteller to produce their sham hearings as some sort of blockbuster movie. They even set up a watch party outside the Capitol, which, nobody showed up to, as you guys can see in the picture over here. And in the end, it's all purely political. You think it's somehow a coincidence that all of a sudden the hearing is ready a couple months out of the 2022 election? Give me a break. The Democrats are still beating this dead horse. They've found no evidence, nothing new. And honestly, I don't even get why they're still trying this shtick. I mean, the people aren't buying it anymore. The most recent NBC poll that we have says fewer Americans now say that Trump is responsible for January 6th, the lowest percentage we've seen on record, dropping to 45%.
Our poll shows that just 45% of Americans believe that Donald Trump was solely or mainly responsible for the violence and the rioting on that day. That's down from 52% when our poll asked that question in just the days after the January 6th attacks. And
that's an NBC poll. The number is probably much lower. Nobody cares. This is political theater, political TV. They're not asking the right questions. They're not coming up with new damning evidence like they promised. And so a bunch of time and money spent on this stuff and nothing has changed. Nancy Pelosi and Liz Cheney and the rest of them are still just as detestable as they were months prior to this event. That's what I got for you guys though. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.